In the town square of Oak Hollow, the cooper Gregory Ward was fitting a door into a giant oak fermentation vat, and the whole town had come to watch a man make a fool of himself.
Look at the dung beetle rolling his own barrel.
Gregory didn't look up. He kept his plane moving along the oak stave, shaving curls of wood that fell into the snow.
Oh, Gregory, what have you asked of us?
A month earlier, he had stumbled on the abandoned vat behind the old brewery, half buried in weeds. The staves were still tight after 20 years.
It held beer for decades without leaking a drop. It'll hold heat the same way.
Will we be warm, Papa?
Warmer than any cabin, son. I promise you that.
By the next market day, the Wards had moved their bedding, their stove, and their dog into the round wooden chamber, while the townsfolk pointed and shook their heads. That evening, as the first real snow began to fall, Gregory pulled the door shut and heard the latch click into place. The town's laughter echoed once more in his memory. But the only answer he gave was the silence inside the vat. Inside, the curved oak walls folded around them, smelling faintly of sour mash and cooper's pitch.
Every barrel's a puzzle of staves and hoops. The joints must be so tight that air can't slip a knife blade between them.
He moved the lantern along the wall, and where the flame flickered, a thread of cold air crept through a seam no wider than a splinter.
Papa, is that the cold getting in?
Not for long. The pitch will seal it like a ship's hull.
A sudden gust shook the door. The dog at the threshold whined, and Thomas pressed his face into his mother's arm.
Wood bent into a circle wants to push outward, but the hoops bind it, and the staves hold each other. That's what we have here.
Gregory, I am frightened. Not for me, but for Thomas. What if the stove fails, or the wind gets in?
I've spent my life making vessels that hold liquid for years. Air is far thinner than water. It won't get in.
Dawn broke, and the vat had held its heat through the night. Thomas threw aside his blankets, and the dog yipped, chasing its tail in the round space. 3 days of brittle silence later, Harlan Burke rode up to the vat, his face a stone under his wide hat.
Silas Craven is telling the whole town you are raising your family like animals in a barrel.
Let him talk. Wood doesn't listen to gossip.
Harlan dismounted heavily, his boots crunching into the snow.
The almanac says the worst winter in a decade is coming. That vat might kill you.
A vat that held boiling wort for years won't be beaten by frost.
Martha had opened the door and heard enough. She stepped into the sharp air, her shawl pulled tight.
Gregory, maybe Harlan is right. The town is turning against us.
I promised you and the boy I would keep you safe. Trust me.
Martha searched his face, then nodded. But the doubt never left her eyes. 2 nights later, the storm Harlan warned of came screaming down the ridges, and the vat shuddered under the first hammering gusts.
Papa, I can hear it breathing.
That's just the wind, son. Let me tell you about the first Kuoper. They called him a fool, too. But the barrel he bent with fire held water across a desert.
Listen to your father, Thomas. He knows wood better than anyone knows words.
Mama, look, the snow is higher than the door. We're buried in sugar.
By morning, the storm had spent itself. Thomas cracked the window shutter and let in a blade of cold light.
It's like a white mountain out there.
Inside the vat, the air was still warm from the banked stove, and Martha smiled, the first genuine smile since the mockery began. But north of the mountains, the almanac's worst winter in a decade was still gathering its fury. The next afternoon, Gregory walked into town, under a sky the color of hammered iron, his footprints the only marks on the drifted road. Inside the Black Spruce Tavern, Silas Craven was holding court by the fire, his laughter already spilling through the doorway.
Look, the barrel, Hermit. Tell us, Gregory, does your wife scrub the hoops every morning?
I didn't come for a fight, Silas. I came for supplies.
Then let's make it a wager. My square cabin against your round coffin. Whoever lasts the winter wins.
The room fell still. Gregory set his sack on the bar, his calloused palm flat on the wood.
I don't gamble on my family's warmth. The winter will decide for us, without any man's wager.
Laughter chased him out, but outside the general store, Harlan caught his arm with a grip that stole the cold.
Silas is full of wind, but the almanac isn't. 6 weeks of deep freeze coming. Buy all you can carry.
Gregory bought an extra barrel of pitch, 2 cords of wood, and a sack of dried beans. He walked home through the gathering cold and never once looked back. Sometime after midnight, a second blizzard swirled in from the north and buried the chimney under a drift of wet snow.
Gregory, wake up. The whole vat is filling with smoke. We can't breathe.
Gregory lurched upright, already choking, and saw the stovepipe glowing a dull red through the rolling gray clouds.
The chimney's blocked. I have to go up and clear it. Keep Thomas close to the floor.
He shoved the door against a wall of wind, and with the pole in his fist, he started up the icy ladder. At the crown of the vat, he drove the pole down into the pipe and felt the blockage break and blow away in the gale. Then his boot skated on the wet wood. He dropped flat against the curve, the ladder rattling below him. He climbed back down, half frozen, and stumbled through the door into the arms of his family.
Papa, Papa, don't go back out. I thought the snow took you away.
As Gregory held them, his mind was already working. A sealed barrel could trap heat, but it could also trap smoke that had nowhere to go. Gregory spent the remaining night sketching a new vent by the stove's ember glow.
A weighted flap over the chimney. Smoke pushes it open, but when it stops, the flap falls shut and seals tight.
You almost died tonight, Gregory. What if the flap freezes? I want to go back to town before it kills us.
Go back to what? A cabin that won't hold heat. I can fix this. I just need you to believe me one more time.
I don't want to leave, Mama. The round walls know my voice. It's our home now.
He's more afraid of losing the vat than the cold. How can I argue with that?
I won't let this barrel be our coffin, Martha. I swear on every joint I've ever cut.
By dawn, Gregory had mounted the flap on the chimney. The dog barked at the snow as he climbed down, his breath a cloud of triumph. Inside, Gregory lit the stove. The flap rose, released the smoke, and fell shut with a sound like a heart beating once. Outside, the northern sky had darkened to the color of a bruise. The deep freeze Harlan warned of was stretching across the mountains. The mega blizzard hit at sundown, a white fist that punched the vat sideways and filled the air with a sound like tearing iron.
The flap is working. Hear it. Every gust blows the smoke out. Then it seals tight as a drumhead.
2 miles away, Silas Craven's square cabin was shaving snow through every corner joint, the wind carving icy snakes across his floor. Half the roof on Harlan Burke's house caved in under a drift, and he dragged his wife and daughter into the woodshed before the beams came down. Harlan tied a rope to his waist and crawled through the scouring dark toward the only light he knew still burned, the glow of the vat.
Gregory, for mercy's sake, open the door.
Gregory shoved the door against the storm and pulled Harlan inside, snow blasting through the gap.
My roof's gone. The whole east wall buckled. Silas's place is drifting full. Nothing's holding but this barrel of yours.
They mocked us. But now their walls are falling while ours holds.
Outside, the blizzard redoubled, and Gregory understood that the night had only begun to ask its terrible questions. Gregory pulled on his heaviest coat and knotted a rope around his waist. Martha reached for him, but he was already handing a second rope to Harlan.
The old widow east of the bridge, the family in the storehouse. We go now, Harlan.
He kissed Martha and pressed Thomas's head. Then he stepped into the white fury, and the storm swallowed him whole. They found the elderly widow half buried in a snowdrift. Gregory lifted her over his shoulder and fought back against the wind. Harlan guided a shivering mother and her children through the drifts, their lantern a dim dot in the hurricane. One by one, they pulled 8 souls from the wreckage, bringing them into the round wooden warmth. Martha had stretched a blanket across the center, dividing the space. She poured watered soup into every cup she owned.
They called you a fool, Gregory. Now you've saved half the town.
But the night isn't over. The real cold is still coming, And we've only bought a few hours.
Outside, the blizzard howled on, and Gregory sensed the deepest freeze of all waiting just beyond the wind. By morning, the blizzard had spent itself, and the wreckage of Oak Hollow lay bare under a pale sun.
My cabin, my tools. I built this place with my own hands, and the wind tore it apart.
Gregory found Silas standing in the wreckage, the splintered roof beams half buried in snow.
Silas, I pulled your best saw from under the drift. It's still straight.
Keep your hands off my tools, barrel man. I don't need anything from you.
Silas threw the saw into the snow and stalked off toward the ruin of his shop. But Harlan Burke stepped forward, and 4 others gathered behind him.
Show us, Gregory. Show us how you sealed your home. We're listening.
Gregory picked up the stave he had carried from the vat and began to teach. He showed them how to cut a groove so tight the wind could not find a seam, and the men listened as if their lives depended on it. Over the following week, the common behind the general store became a coopering yard. Wood shavings covered the snow, and the ring of hammers was constant.
Look here, Gregory. I sealed this panel myself. Not a breath of wind gets through.
They're all bowing to the barrel man now, but my walls are still frozen.
On the 4th day, Silas trudged across the yard, snow crusting his boots, and stopped a yard from Gregory.
Show me the crows, the groove tool. I can't make my joints seal without it.
It's about the angle. You have to cut so the 2 faces press together when the wood swells.
Gregory placed the crows in Silas's hand and guided the first cut. Silas did not pull away. Near the vat, Thomas had found a new flock. He and 2 other boys were rolling a snowball taller than themselves. The dog barked, and Thomas laughed for the first time in days, his cheeks red in the bitter air. But the almanac's deep freeze was still 20 days away, and every man in the yard knew the real test hadn't come yet. Gregory spent the last light of each day driving a 5th iron hoop tighter around the vat's belly.
5 hoops now. Each one pulls the staves inward. The cold won't crack them.
He packed the vat's base with straw and banked snow against the lower staves.
That'll keep the ground freeze from creeping up into the floorboards.
Inside, Martha counted the dried beans for the 3rd time, her lips moving silently.
This is the last sack, Gregory. There's no more to be had until spring.
We'll stretch it. The freeze can't last forever.
That evening, Gregory pulled Thomas close to the stove.
Push the damper in slow. Don't smother it, just enough to hold the coals red until morning.
And Gregory looked out at the darkening sky, knowing the test they had prepared for was nearly upon them. The deep freeze struck without wind, so cold that the vat's staves creaked like ship timbers. Gregory swung the axe until his beard froze solid against his cheek. Each split log cost more warmth than it would give.
This cold wants to kill us, but it doesn't know who it's fighting.
Inside, Thomas watched his mother pray over the stove. The boy's hands trembled, but not from the cold.
Papa, let me watch the fire. I can keep the damper right. I remember how.
All right, son. You are the cooper's apprentice now. Keep the coals red no matter what.
When Gregory stumbled inside, Martha wrapped him in blankets, but Thomas stayed by the stove, hands steady on the damper.
You've got a cooper's hands, son. Steady, even when the cold bites hardest.
The freeze held on, night after night, but the vat didn't crack. Neither did the boys' nerve. Inside that round wooden hold, they had become more than a family. They were a crew. The freeze chewed through the town. Doors swollen shut, window panes spider-webbed with frost, and the dead cart made its first trip of the winter. Harlan Burke stumbled through the frozen crust, his face raw with news.
Old Mrs. Craven is failing, Gregory. The doctor says she won't last another night.
What about her son? Did Silas seal his walls?
He tried, but the cold got in. He's too proud to ask for more help. The woman is dying.
If I bring her here, there's no corner left, but she'll die in that cracked cabin. I am bringing her in. Martha, push the blankets tighter. Harlan, walk with me.
Gregory, The freeze is worse than before. If you go out,
Then I'll be back before it claims me. The vat has proven itself. Now I have to.
Outside, the freeze tightened another notch. But inside that round wooden hold, the decision was made. There was still warmth enough to share. Gregory laid her near the stove, where the warmth was thickest. Her fingers were cold as glass. Martha spooned broth between her cracked lips, but the old woman no longer swallowed.
She's fading, Martha. There's nothing left to do but keep her warm.
Sometime after midnight, the old woman slipped away without a sound. Gregory draped his own blanket over her still form and sat against the curved wall, keeping watch.
you gave her your warmth. It was all you could do.
At first light, the door banged open, and Silas Craven stood in the opening, his eyes wild.
Mother. Number. I should have come. I should have brought her myself. You kept her warm when my own walls didn't. I was wrong. God help me. I was wrong.
Gregory placed a hand on Silas's shoulder, and for the first time, the carpenter did not pull away. They buried Mrs. Craven on the hill behind the vat, the frozen ground finally giving way to Maddox and grief.
I called him a fool in front of you all, but his house stands while mine fell. The cooper was right.
I never wanted this, but maybe the vat was meant for more than just my family.
2 days later, the town gathered in the meeting hall, and the mayor called Gregory to the front. He asked Gregory to lead the building of winterproof shelters. His craft had saved his family. Now it could save the town.
I'll do it, not for pride, but for everyone who mocked me and everyone who stood by me. We all need walls that hold.
The Cooper's way is the only way now. We saw it with our own eyes.
I'll learn the craft. I'll help. It's the least I can do.
The crowd that had once laughed in the square now murmured their assent, and Gregory felt the weight of what they were asking. Outside, the vat sat solid against the snow, the first strong shelter the town had ever turned to, and the first built by the man they had called a fool. When the freeze finally broke, the whole valley rang with the sound of dripping ice and the smell of wet earth. On the common where Gregory had first taught them, the town now raised curved walls of oak, smaller than the vat, but built on the same tight-jointed principle.
The curve does the work. It pushes back against the wind. Seal the seams right, and the weather becomes nothing but noise.
Like this, Gregory. I can't feel any gap between these staves.
That's the way. You've found the touch.
Harlan Burke worked at Gregory's right hand, and Silas Craven, stripped of his pride, planed staves beside the man he had once mocked.
I spent my life cutting right angles. I never knew a curve could hold this strong.
The whole town has become a Cooper yard. My craft, once mocked, is now their walls.
By the end of the week, the first round shelter stood complete, its door facing the vat, like a daughter beside a mother. The worst winter in memory had tested them all. But out of that trial, the Cooper had reshaped the town. Spring came to Oak Hollow, and Martha Ward knelt in the dark earth beside the vat, pressing carrot seeds into the thawing ground.
The ground is giving back what the winter took. Do you see, Thomas?
Thomas and the dog raced through the remaining patches of snow, the boy's laughter ringing off the vat. The dog snapped at a white butterfly, the first of the season, and Thomas collapsed in the snow, laughing. Inside, Gregory sat at the small table with charcoal and paper, sketching an addition to the vat.
What are you drawing, Papa?
A new room, son. A smaller barrel attached to the side. We'll have more space before next winter.
Martha stepped inside, brushing dirt from her hands, and leaned over the drawing.
A cooper and a gardener. We're building a life here, Gregory. After all this, I think the town knows our name for the right reasons.
Gregory stepped outside and looked at the great oak vat, remembering the day Silas called him a dung beetle. But the vat had not cracked. The craft had held, and so had they. Late one afternoon, Gregory walked Thomas along the common where the new round shelters stood.
Tap the stave, Thomas. Hear that solid sound? That's what a good life feels like.
No crack for the wind to find.
That's it. That's the whole secret. a joint so tight the weather stays outside.
I am going to be a Cooper, Papa. I want to build walls that people can trust.
He's heard the lesson deep. The craft won't die with me.
Father and son stood in the quiet of the spring evening, the new shelters glowing like small lighthouses against the fading snow.
Look, Thomas, every round roof you see started as a crooked stave until someone bent it right.
Thomas leaned into his father's side, the boy's small hand finding the Cooper's palm. The sunlight slipped behind the mountains, but the warmth between them was the kind that didn't fade. As dusk deepened, Gregory found Martha standing at the vat's door, her shawl pulled close, watching the last light on the staves.
I was so scared that first night, I thought the wind would tear it open before dawn.
So was I. But the staves held, and so did we.
I never doubted you, Gregory. I doubted the wood. I doubted the cold. But not you.
I did. I spent every night listening for cracks, but my father taught me that a good joint doesn't need faith. It needs a tight fit.
You gave this family something no one else could. A round wall that kept the wind out and the love in.
Gregory reached out and pressed his palm against the oak, then took her hand and placed it beside his.
This vat is your home as much as mine. You endured every bit as much as the staves.
They stood there, a long moment, the great barrel darkening behind them, and then she leaned into his side, hand in hand. They stepped inside, the door closing with the same solid click as the first night. Night came gently over Oak Hollow, carrying snow that fell like feathers against the vat. The seams that once held back a blizzard now only showed warm lines of gold beneath the winter white. Through the round window, Thomas watched the flakes gather on the sill, a familiar sight now without fear. The dog curled near the stove, gave a single contented bark, and settled into dreams of butterflies. The vat stood as it had through the worst, now painted in a fresh coat of snow. No longer a target, but a testament. From the hill, the new round shelters mirrored the light, scattered like lanterns across the valley. No storm, no mockery, only the quiet of a craft that had proven itself beyond any man's doubt. The winter that had tried to kill them now lay harmless at their door. Nothing but a soft white memory. The Cooper's barrel held its peace, a promise kept in wood and iron, and, in the silence, the man who had been called a fool had become the name Oak Hollow spoke first when the cold returned. A home is not walls and a roof, but a place where the wind cannot find you. The Cooper knew that secret long before the first snow fell. And when the worst winter came, the vat kept its promise. It held the warmth, it held the family, it held the hope, not a monument of chiseled stone, but of oak and iron, shaped by hand and sweat. Gregory Ward had built more than a shelter. He had carved out a place where the wind could not reach them, and the cold could not find a single crack. And on the coldest nights, when the frost painted its lace on the glass, they were always warm. That was the Cooper's gift, a round chamber of stillness in a world of storms. And in the end, that silence was all the answer the town ever needed.